Be confident, be bold, be authentic, but don't forget to take action. This is Ordinary to Badass, where our stories empower women to step into the spotlight of their own lives and pursue what they're truly passionate about. It's time to step into the arena and become more than just extraordinary. It's time to become a badass with your host, Marie Sonneman.
Welcome to Ordinary to Badass, episode number 291. In this episode, you'll hear from Susie Hayes. And Susie helps people access the internal resources they never knew they had in order to create the life that they never knew they could. And she helps them through coaching and counseling, and she does hypnosis, writing, and speaking. So we really do talk a lot about fear and how to deal with that, and self-sabotage, and why it is that we're self-sabotage. Words are hard. Why it is we're self-sabotaging ourselves, and what we can do to push past it. So if you're experiencing fear and you feel like you need a little bit of courage or you need to push past a barrier, this is the episode for you. In this episode, I share a little bit about my journey and how I've been trying to purge a lot of things. Starting in the new year, I've been just getting rid of stuff and trying to organize and clean my house. And sometimes fear comes up with that, right? Or you're like, ooh, what if I need this later? What if I get rid of it and I shouldn't? And, just all the internal battles that we have. But the truth is, we can have fear or anxiety or self-sabotage about the smallest of things. And so these principles that she's teaching are helpful, even on a basic level, even as in cleaning and organizing your house. So stay tuned. I can't wait to hear what you think of this episode. Let's get to it. Welcome to Ordinary to Badass. Whether you're ordinary or badass, I'm so glad you're here. Today's guest is Susie Hayes. Susie, thank you so much for being here. Excited to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's an honor.
So before we go any further, I've got to ask you, do you consider yourself ordinary or badass?
I think even the most ordinary people are extraordinary. So I would actually have to say that I think I am both.
So when do you feel badass?
When I am making decisions that are in alignment with who I truly am. When I am making choices that are in alignment with my authenticity, my values connected to my heart, that's when I'm badass.
Is there anything that you do to tap into that?
I think it's more about being aware of those times when I'm not in that place and adjusting accordingly. Meaning that when I forget who I really am, I remind myself of who I really am and how I want to show up in the world. And then I course correct to that. And I honestly, Marie, I try to do that as much as possible with great compassion toward myself. And I tend to be one of those people that sets high standards for myself. I really love living a high quality of life. And so when I'm not in that place, I really try to learn from that and refocus to be able to show up again from the best of who I am. That's truly my heart's desire in my human experience.
Okay, so I can't wait to dig in more. But first, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I help people access internal resources they never knew they had in order to create what they never knew they could. And I do that through coaching, counseling, hypnosis, writing, and speaking.
So how do you help them access internal resources they don't know they have? Tell me more about that.
Well, I do that through coaching, counseling, hypnosis, writing, and speaking.
But what do you mean by that? What do you mean by accessing internal resources they never knew they had?
Appreciating who they really are and understanding that all of us have the resources we need to create the life that we want. Sometimes we need guidance. Sometimes we need insight. Sometimes we need education. Sometimes we need encouragement. So I think it's really foundationally about understanding that our resources are really inside of ourselves. And all of those ways in which I work with people are from an external place in order for them to be able to find that inside themselves. And that's primarily done conversationally.
So can you tell us a little bit about your journey, like how you got to where you are today?
Well, professionally, I really came into where I'm at in my work today, which is what I've been doing for quite a few decades now, through my own personal therapy. I was in graduate school and I realized that I was really, even though things were going well, I was dissatisfied. And so I got into my own therapy and I found it to be such an amazing process, so intriguing. And I decided then I was actually completing a degree in education. And I stayed and got an additional master's in counseling. And so that really shifted the trajectory of my life at that point.
I'm looking at your tagline there. It says Susie Hayes, Freed from Stuck. Tell me what the Freed from Stuck is about.
Freed from Stuck is really the title of my book written a few years ago that I came to understand that that's what I've been doing for all of these years. And in the course of writing the book, I identified 5 elements that are essential to becoming freed from stuck. And I used the metaphor of a bridge, crossing a bridge from stuck to freed from stuck. And there is I use the acronym of FREED, F-R-E-E-D. And those are the 5 elements in terms of getting across that bridge.
Can you expand on those for us?
Absolutely. So F is face the bridge. And this is about identifying what the real problem is. It's important to do that because sometimes what we think is the problem is not the problem. Sometimes we identify it as an external challenge, which it can be, but more often than not, it's internally some pain point or fear or unmet need that has not been attended to. So once we identify that, then we're more likely to be able to put together a strategy or a plan to move from stuck to free from stuck. The second element is R, which is recognize the bridge. And by that, I mean looking across the bridge to the other side of the destination of how we believe our life will be different if we make the changes that we need to make. And the more vivid and the more emotionally charged that vision is for us, the more it will magnetize us and support us as we cross the bridge. The next element is E, which is embrace the bridge. And this is about identifying any blocks or challenges, either externally or internally, and putting together a strategy to cross the bridge. The second E is exit the bridge. And this is the piece that we don't talk so much about often in the change process, but it's about grieving. It means that when we let go of something that is no longer serving us, it is going to require some level of grief. And we know that grieving is the most difficult human task. And to the degree that we love is to the degree that we grieve. And yet, it's so important for us to be able to let go in order to make the changes and open up space for the new coming into our life. And then the last element is D, which is discovering our destiny as we arrive at our destination. And by that, I mean that in the change process, if we really allow that transformation to take place, we come into a greater understanding of who we are, what our values are, what is purposeful in our life, what feeds our soul, and what brings us joy. And that's the richness of the change process.
So I imagine that there's hiccups or people get stuck along the way. What do you do to and I know it's part of getting, free from stuck, but what do you do to get out of it or to keep moving along even though it feels hard?
And that is a really good question, because that is part of the challenge in change, yes, is that it's not a smooth path. You begin to cross that bridge and the wind's going to blow and the rain's going to come, and sometimes it's going to feel a little unsteady. And that's why the development of the vision of the destination really helps, because we can always return to that and say, that's where I'm going. That's what I want. That's who I'm meant to be. That's what I deserve in my life. And that then compels us to continue to move forward even in those challenging times. And the other piece that is important to keep in mind is that, it's not linear and it's not straight. And sometimes we take a couple steps back and we wobble a few steps forward. And that's just part of our human experience, which is why compassion is so important toward ourselves in that process.
So what is one of the steps from Freed that you see a lot of your clients get stuck on, and what do you tell them how they can move past it?
Another really great question. Probably one of the greatest challenges, I think, really in the change process is allowing the grief. We like things to be certain, and we like them to be constant, and we like them to be comfortable. And so change is none of those things. And yet, when we reach a certain pain threshold where we say, I've had enough, I need to make a change, this isn't working, then we start to move toward that. But then we also realize that the process of change itself has this element of grief that's hard. And sometimes it frightens us. We don't want to go there. And so I think that's probably one of the greatest challenges. I also think that foundationally, it's really about fear of the unknown. We don't really know. We have kind of an idea of what it might look like, but we don't know. We have to trust the process of change itself. And so I think that's one of the greatest obstacles as well as we look at change, is that, we have to do it without guarantees, and there's always going to be risk. And we have to be able to access our own courage to do that. And that's not always easy, even for the most badasses of us.
Right?
Yep.
So even as you were talking, I thought, so for the new year, I've been really trying to clean everything out and get everything organized. And I'm going a lot more extreme than I ever have before. But change can be hard. Or you're like, oh, but if I get rid of this, what if I need it later? Or you start to attach to things that you didn't think that, you'd be so attached to. And so it's kind of funny, and I know it's on a basic level compared to like what you're talking about, but it still relates as that it's hard to change. It's hard to get rid of things that you're used to or you're comfortable with, and the fear of, oh my gosh, what if I lose it all? So I just thought that was interesting that it can even relate just to like even basic life changes.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to not underestimate that. And that's it's easier for some people than others to let go or to purge. You know, some people it's quite easy. They can discard things easily. It can either be things or relationships or beliefs. You know, it just comes easier for some people. Other people are attached. They have a high level of sentiment with things, or like you mentioned, they're afraid that if they let go of something, they might need it later on. And so I think that I think you identified something that we do in a very practical, physical kind of way, but it's really no different, and it's just as emotionally charged as it is when we talk about our internal work.
So earlier you kind of mentioned the idea of sometimes we take steps back or we move backwards, and that we have to find compassion for ourselves. Do you have any practices that you have or that you share for finding compassion for yourself?
Compassion for ourselves is really about understanding. And in terms of practices, I think most simply it's about how we speak to ourselves inside. And so to be attentive to that, because sometimes that chatter, it can feel like that chatter hijacks us. You know, like it starts going in your head, and you find, oh my gosh, I'm just like beating up on myself, or, all of the really cruel things sometimes we say to ourselves that we would never say to anyone else. So being attentive to that conversation, which is sometimes more of a monologue than a conversation, or sometimes it's a rant, where that part of you, that critical part just, goes berserko. I think that being attentive to that and realizing, one, what's going on, that, oh my gosh, this part of me, though well-intended, is not helping me in any way by just internally yapping at me and criticizing me and putting me down and being abusive. Being abusive to myself is not going to create real change. It's only going to intensify fear and shame, which doesn't serve us. And then to be able to access a part of ourself that knows the truth of who we are. And the truth of who we are is that we are amazing creatures with incredible resources of intelligence, insight, wisdom gained from life experience, creativity, curiosity. All of those are assets and aspects of who we are that serve us well. And so to be able to turn our focus on what do I have inside of me that is going to allow me to be resilient and courageous at this time? What inside of me is going to speak the truth in love and understanding so that I can see clearly? What aspect of me inside holds the wisdom and the love that can support me in moving forward? And then listening to that voice. And if that voice is very weak, making a decision to cultivate that voice, to encourage that voice, to give that voice permission to speak more loudly, more clearly, because it is that voice inside of us that is badass.
Yes, and I think it's not even taught, like, about cultivating that voice and having reminders around you to remind you that you're a badass and to remind you of all the hardships that you've overcome. And I know previously we had Rebecca Kordecki on the podcast, and she said she creates a wall of badassery. So she puts like a big poster up on her wall, and she has images and writings and different things of things she's accomplished. So on her hard days, when she just feels so down, she can look at, oh my gosh, I've done this. I've done this. Because sometimes when we're in those depressed states, we just can't see outside of where we are right now. Has that been true for you or your clients?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's true for all of us that when we get into those places where we are discouraged or afraid or ashamed or fearful, that we lose our clarity. And so she is using a visual external reminder that she can turn to easily and look at that and say, oh, yes, that is the truth about who I am. And that can be a really wonderful resource.
So long, or usually when we're on this path and we're trying to get unstuck and trying to get move forward to something new, we sabotage ourselves. We find something to stop us from doing it. What do you say to move past self-sabotage, or what do you suggest?
Well, I think all of us are acquainted with self-sabotage. Most everybody that I know or have ever met have certain points in their life where they work against themselves. And so I think it's important to realize, again, this is part of our human experience. It's also important to, I think, understand that self-sabotage is an indication of fear. Like, ruh-roh, I don't know that I'm ready to, move forward in this way or make this change or let this go or step into this unknown place. So it's important to acknowledge it as often being an expression of anxiety about moving forward and making change. I also think there's a deeper level, Marie, that's important to appreciate, and that is sometimes we self-sabotage when we don't believe that we really deserve to be badass. And that's a really, really important internal journey and question to address. Do I really believe that I deserve what my heart is desiring? Do I really believe that I deserve a better quality of life? Do I really believe, do I know that I deserve to live at a higher level, a more satisfying level? And when we really look at that, the question then becomes, why don't I deserve that? Why ought I not to be able to have that? And it's really foundational to be able to deal with those times when we're afraid of moving forward, to say, yes, I deserve this. And yes, I know I can figure out how to get there. And when we come to that place of confidence of, yes, I deserve this, and yes, I can figure it out, then we free ourselves from those patterns that are destructive and sabotaging.
So it sounds like by asking yourself questions like, do I believe that I deserve this? By asking yourself questions, you're looking at it more from a curiosity standpoint as opposed to like a shaming standpoint. Is that right?
Well said. Yes. And to be able to be curious about what's going on inside of us, we have to feel safe in that. And sometimes we're not, because about those critical interceptions will happen, right? And so it is important that we allow ourselves to be curious, knowing that what we're seeking is truth, and not truth in the terms of condemnation, but truth in sense of knowing who we are. And so absolutely, to be able to be curious and ask those questions, we have to feel safe in our own skin, inside, in relationship with ourselves.
And if you just can't get there, you just can't feel safe, you just can't feel like you're enough or that you're worthy, that's where you maybe seek help from somebody like you or a counselor, a therapist. Is that true?
Yes, it's really important to seek out clarification from someone that you trust really is going to respond truthfully and compassionately. And sometimes when we ask for reflection or support from other people, um, it can be challenging because people are more often than not quite quick to give advice, right, and opinions. And so we must choose our external counsel, if you will, very well. People that we trust, people that we respect, people that we know have wisdom, people who have the capacity to see us through the eyes of love and yet to speak the truth to us about what they see is going on and then support us in figuring out how we're going to get there, right? There's 100 gazillion opinions out there, and that might be useful sometimes. But what we really need to be able to do is cultivate our own ability to problem solve and to strategize. And that means, referring back to your previous question, to be able to be curious and to ask really good questions. Those are incredible skills.
Yes, there was so much goodness in there because it's like a lot of times external counsel, those are people that can see things in you that you can't necessarily see for yourself. Like we put this wall up or a curtain in front of us and we just can't see like what we're capable of or the things we're good at. And so having other people who can see those things in you is helpful. And then also being able to go to people when you're stuck and to be able to say, hey, can you help me? Like you said, an expert or somebody who knows what they're talking about, because everybody will give you opinions on your finances and they don't necessarily know about finances, or how to get out of debt or that kind of thing. But it's a matter of finding the experts, finding the mentors, finding the people that support you. So I love that you said that.
Yeah, it is. And I, I always am a little tentative about seeking expertise because it implies a kind of perfection, which I think is not realistic. And what you're referring to, which I think is absolutely right, is that we want to seek out people who have proven value in their skills, meaning that they have expertise, if you will, but they have abilities to help us beyond where we are. And sometimes we don't need someone with high level expertise. We just need someone with a little bit more wisdom than we have to shine a light and to have them clarify and bring into perspective the truth of really the best that they see in us. And then if there is additional insight or information, that's useful too. But that foundational experience of you see me, you get me, you know me, and you see me with clarity that right now I may not see in myself. And I'm going to trust that, and I'm going to take that in, and I'm going to shift how I see myself because of how you see me. That is an amazing gift that those around us give to us. And when we seek that out and we're open to that, it really is transformative.
So is it ever too late? Whether it's making a change, finding mentors, finding a council of experts, or not a council of experts, what did you say? A council of?
Yeah, a council of experts or a council of competency, perhaps.
Yes, there we go.
A council of competency. They have a level of competency that they kind of know what they're doing, and they can, help you in that. Yeah.
So is it ever too late for that? Whether it's finding a council of competency or making changes in your life?
No, and in fact, I work with in my work, I work with people all the way from, adolescence into their elder years. And I find that sometimes people who are in their 70s and their 80s, they are the most receptive to change because time looks different from that perspective for them. And they have things they want to put to rest, resolve, heal, change, understand. And often they're very, very receptive in the change process. So no, it has absolutely nothing to do with where we are on that timeline of our life. It has everything to do with the readiness inside of us to make the changes.
So, O to Beers, if you have the readiness inside your heart, if you want to make a change or you know that something needs to give, then now is the time. It's never too late. You heard it from Susie.
It's true. It's true. It is very true.
So, Susie, let's end with a tip to encourage women who are in the arena fighting for the life that they want.
I would return, Marie, to what I said earlier in our conversation about get clear about what you deserve and get clear about who you are and get clear about the quality of life that you want to live, how you want to show up, and what you're open to receiving. And I sometimes say to people, if you're thinking about moving from stuck to freed from stuck, ask yourself, what will be the outcome if I don't make this change? How will it affect me? How will it affect my family? How will it affect my future, my community, the world? And then ask yourself the question, and when I do make this change, how will that impact my life? How will it impact the lives of those around me? How will it impact the world in which I live? And then to encourage people to trust that choice of moving forward to create what you need to create to have that life that you know you deserve.
So good. And Susie, how can we connect with you?
You can find me at freedfromstuck.com.
Thank you so much, Susie. You've been a total badass and I've enjoyed hearing your story.
Thank you. It's been a great conversation.
And with that, we'll end our show. To all the badass women out there standing in the arena, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, own it and get after it. Okay, let's do a quick recap of the episode. 1. All of us have the resources that we need to create the life that we want. Those resources are found inside yourself. 2. We have to trust the process of change. 3. Be attentive to your internal chatter. Though it's well intended, it may not be helping you. 4. What do I have inside of me that's going to allow me to be resilient and courageous at this time? Ask yourself that. 5. Self-sabotage is an indication of fear or an expression of anxiety. Ask yourself, what do I believe? Or do I believe that I deserve this? Make sure to tune into the podcast on Thursday to hear 3 reasons why Susie Hayes is so badass. Okay, talk to you then.
Now that you've listened to this episode of Ordinary to Badass, we want to hear from you. Go to our website, ordinarytobadass.com/podcast, and submit your own experience on how you took your life from ordinary to badass and get the chance to be on a future spotlight episode of the show. That's ordinarytobadass.com/podcast. While you're waiting for the next episode of the show, wipe off the sweat, dust off the dirt, and get back in the arena.
So you